Hey. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Be On Sunday. And we have a great episode today. We are sitting down with our lead pastor, Justin Kendrick. Hello, buddy.
So good to be back.
Always. It is always
fun.
Good to be back. We've had an exciting last couple of weeks.
We have.
There's been a ton of different things that have been going on with the church, going on with you. So I just want to recap some of this before we get started. First and foremost, we had Easter. Easter service was crazy.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. And luckily, I was able to go to both of them. I was working on the production team, but it was just an amazing event. So I want to talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what it took to put something like that on. I know we opened up the doors. A lot of people were there in all the different campuses. Yeah. I don't know if we have those numbers. I didn't even ask you, but what was it like this year for Easter?
It was definitely, the largest gathering, both online and in person. Was awesome to see so many people come back out. I think that was just a blessing for my heart. Obviously, the last year for the church has been a lot of smaller gatherings, a lot of real careful gatherings. We tried to stay very, very careful, keep everybody social distance, safe, everything. But it was awesome to see so many people just reintegrate, So many families we haven't seen, so many individuals that have maybe just been coming occasionally just to be able to worship together. So in terms of like the spiritual side, I met so many people who were there for the first time, or people who brought their mom or their uncle or their friend for the first time. Yeah. I love that because, this is an opportunity to really express the truth of Jesus in a way that grabs people's attention. And so,
Easter's one of those days. It's like, hey, when do you want to go to church? Totally. Well, we should go Easter. We should go Christmas Eve. These are the times that people go to church, and just to see people walk in the door and the excitement. Yeah. Even with the staff that was there, no one had any idea what to expect. There wasn't a sign up saying, hey, we have this many people. It was like, who's going to show up? What's going to happen? Yep. And just being in New Haven and seeing some of the people that I haven't seen in a long time, and again, everyone did a very good job with the protocols, doing everything the way that we were supposed to do. But it was just really cool seeing that. The vibe was different, I felt.
Me too. Yeah. It felt like it was, just so alive, so bought in. It's just amazing. I think one thing that I have learned in the last year more than any other time in my life is the resilience and the endurance of the church. I am telling you, this church is so strong, so resilient. We have been through craziness in this last year, and truthfully, the people of God have never been stronger. Like, you just can't stop the church. Yeah. It's been 2,000 years, and every, world power and, crazy tragedy has tried to stop the church, and you just can't. The church is the only eternal thing on this planet. And it is an unstoppable force. And I'm not talking about Vox. I'm talking about the people of God, the eternal family of God. So exciting to see that manifest at Vox. Like, the people of God are so in. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's awesome. And there's challenges, there's trials. We're in the middle of a big one this last year, but so thankful. And not just in New Haven too. Middletown had 3 services. They were packed.
Wow.
Hartford opened up to 2 services at the Webster, and they were back, which was awesome. They've been in a much smaller gathering mode because we haven't had a facility to meet in. And so, it's just been exciting to see it all kind of come back to life.
Yeah. It almost feels, and I'm not going to say it, but it almost feels like, we're not taking a turn, but we're rounding. I know. Rounding a corner.
I know. It's hard to even start to say. Obviously, families still a challenge with kids. We're reopening kids programs everywhere in the next couple of weeks, and so that's the big next step: is can families come and feel comfortable? Obviously, we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're able to, but that's a process, and I get that.
Yeah, well, it was awesome to be a part of. But as we speak, I don't know if you guys can hear, there's a beep, beep, beep in the background.
Yeah, there is.
And from the office where we're recording this, in the background, we can hear the bulldozers plowing.
That's right.
The ground is breaking behind us. And this past Sunday, Sunday, we had our groundbreaking service.
We did.
For you guys in your position, you and Chrissy, and the team that's been with you since day one, what an unbelievable feeling it must have been just to kind of stand there, throw the shovel into the dirt and say, hey, this is this is part of the plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, walk me through what it felt as you were up there preaching in the rain.
In the rain. Yeah. No, that was perfect. I like that. I like the fact that this is going to be messy. That kind of like speaks to the reality of life, right? Life is messy. And so it didn't bother me at all. And I even like that, we had a lot of people come, but there were a lot of people who didn't come because of the rain, which I understand. But to me, it's like, that's okay too, because, it's all about the seed. It's all about planting a seed. Everything starts small. For me, two competing thoughts were running around in my mind. One was the faithfulness of God. Just thankful that there is a God who has a plan, and it's not my plan. It's not my timing. It's his plan and his timing. And if we can just rest in that, he will do exceedingly abundantly beyond what we can imagine. And so just thankful for his faithfulness. This is really 4 or 5 years in the making, that moment. But another thing I said to Chrissy, my wife, when we were up there just kind of celebrating and thanking God, I said, here's to the first anchor location. And she was like, the first anchor location?
I did hear you say that on stage.
And I said, absolutely, the first anchor location, because in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to have 20, 30 anchor locations that support the surrounding churches. And so, in other words, this Brantford location is going to provide ministry and services to all of our churches within a 20-mile radius. In the same way, Providence and Boston and Worcester eventually are going to have anchor locations with larger facilities, with storage, with office spaces, so that we can, facilitate ministry in the surrounding towns and communities. And so, there was a part of me that was like, God, I'm thankful for this one, but I'm also, really already kind of planning the next one. Yeah. And I don't mean that. Sometimes, Justin has a way of being so far ahead that I don't celebrate the moment.
Yeah.
I am trying to celebrate the moment, but I'm also seeing it as a first.
Well, I mean, I think it is powerful because, again, if you look at any person in the world of kind of where you live, it's not necessarily about the small little things.
Yeah.
For me, when I have a conversation with my wife, I tend to think about the bigger things as well. And she's thinking the complete opposite. She's like, well, this is where we're at, and how are we going to get there? And I'm like, I have no idea. I just know eventually we'll end up there. But it was just cool to see all the people show up, number one. But we also did this time capsule thing. Walk me through what that was and why you did that.
Absolutely.
I know you had a time capsule. You threw some of the dirt in, and a bunch of people wrote some stuff down, put it in the time capsule. So tell me what that was all about.
Yeah, so I never want to forget what this building is built on. So in the natural realm, with our eyes and our ears, we consistently think, well, it's built on giving, it's built on steel and cement, and it's a building. And that's true. It is a physical building. But that's only as far as our eyes can see. In reality, it is more than that. It is a spiritual building. And what that means is that this physical place is going to facilitate opportunities for people to encounter God, which to me is the most important thing in the world. Buildings are not that important. People encountering God, that lasts forever. It lasts forever. And so I've given my life to see individuals and families completely remade by the power of the gospel. And it is so amazing in my own life and in the lives of thousands of others how the gospel changes everything in life. And so what we did was we took little cards and we wrote on those cards the names of those in our lives who are far from God. And so hundreds of names put in this thing, and we closed it up and we buried it under the earth on this ground. And so the idea here is to say, hey, this little box is actually a physical representation of what we spiritually believe, that the foundation of this church is the prayers of the saints and the faith of God's people. And so faith is the building block that enables us to see the kingdom of God advance, right? The scripture says in Paul's letter to Timothy that the administration of God is by faith. You think of like a president, right? He has an administration where they have certain rules, certain organizations. They hire a couple thousand staff to run their administration. Well, that's the president's administration. God's administration runs on a certain ethic, a certain way of doing things. And that administration is faith, to believe. And so This was our statement of faith. It was a little box that said, hey, we believe that our loved ones are going to come to Christ. We believe that our prayers are going to change the land. And we believe that this seed is actually going to become a great forest, a great harvest. Yeah. And so, acts of faith are important. That's why Jesus said, this is my body, this is my blood. That's why we do baptisms. These are all acts of faith. And so you see it all through the Old Testament and New. God told his people to actually do physical things to see supernatural things.
And just for some of our listeners out there, when are we expected to see this building come to completion?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So the steel gets delivered in May. The building will actually be constructed in June. It goes up pretty quick. The frame goes up probably through the month of June. They're expecting a 20-day build out for the frame. And then you've got July and August, September to really do all the internal construction, all the rooms and flooring and everything else. And so our goal is to open it depends on who you ask, right? So our construction team would say Christmas services this year will be held in this building.
Awesome.
And so that's their goal. Mine's a little sooner, but that's okay. But yeah, so that's what we're aiming for. But we're really trusting God. Obviously, there's 1,000 hurdles financially. We still need to raise a ton of the resources for this building. Structurally, of course, you've got to get all the permits and everything else. So it's not all in our hands, but it's all in God's hands. Yeah. And so we're confident that we'll have services this year.
We'll see you guys walk out there with lemonade for all the workers. That's it. You guys are doing great.
Donuts. Yeah, you guys get back to work. Yeah, no.
That's awesome. Well, blessings to everyone who has a hand in this building. Yeah. We want to see it go up swiftly without any flaws.
Yeah, so, please pray for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about, we mentioned last time that we spoke, it was about finances, and it was a great conversation. And I got a couple follow-up emails on that conversation. So we can dive back into finances, but one particular question stood out to me, and it was about being successful. Yep. And the question pretty much framed it. Listen, we are in a world where we are defined by success. We are defined, and personally, I'm not talking about the outside world view. This is personally, who are we? Where are we going?
Yep.
And some people are great with this and some people aren't. Yeah. Some people strive, they want to be the best at something, and other people don't, and that's fine. Yep. It's all innate within us. But success is what drives us. And, we look at some famous people, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he's pretty famous.
Yep, Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. He's my man. I don't know if you've ever seen him play.
The great one.
Yeah, the great one. Yeah. That's right. That's what he's defined at. Right. And even someone like Tom Brady, Babe Ruth, people.
You see how he put Tom Brady in there?
Yeah. Well, I know you told me not to, but I did anyway. People like that. We look at them and we define success and greatness with those people. Right. They go hand in hand. But you look at someone like Jeff Bezos, you look at other people that have defined success. Yep. So the question is, where are we supposed to lie in the world of success, the world view and also God's view? Yep. So as we go to work every day and as we grind, we have a certain goal. Right. The goal is to make money to provide for our families, to have a house over our head, to be able to go on vacation. We have certain goals. Yep. But where does that stop? Where do we stop trying to get a promotion? And is it healthy to not stop? Right. And so these are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. I know that wasn't a specific question,
that's great.
And we're all over the place, but it got me thinking about my life and where I'm going and the people that are around me. I see them grinding. I see them working hard. I see a lot of people sacrificing a lot in order to reach the next level of where they're at.
That's right.
And again, I don't know where it lines up with the Bible. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about it. Let's define success.
Let's define success, yeah. So I think you have to start with this idea of greatness, right? I actually have a book coming out in September. And there's
plug.
And there's a chapter in it called The Ache to Be Great.
Okay.
And the publisher asked me, they said, are you sure you want to call it that? Because that sounds kind of like, the ache to be great. Do we really want to promote an ache? Maybe it's like, the greatness in all of us. I was like, nah, man, it's the ache to be great. There is in every person an ache to be great. And it's interesting because this comes up with Jesus and his disciples, right? They start debating who's the greatest. And it's very important the way Jesus responds to this because we literally get God's point of view in the person of Christ on greatness in that passage. Mm. Because in that passage, he doesn't say, how dare you desire to be great? How dare you desire to thrive? You should never want to be great. You should just want to be a loser, right? He doesn't say that at all, right? And so the internal, intrinsic ache to be great is actually from God. It is part of Imago Dei. It is part of the image of God in you. And so that's the first thing that a person in Christ has to understand, that my desire to thrive, to succeed, to excel, to advance, to grow, all those desires come from him, okay? So the root of that desire is pure. Now things get complicated, right? Because Jesus says in that passage, he says, oh, you desire to be great. He doesn't say, how dare you? He says, good, all right, you desire to be great. So now what is greatness? And he says, well, the rulers of this age try to lord their power over you, but it will not be so among you. He says, the greatest among you will be the servant of all. And so he redefines greatness, okay? He begins to redefine greatness by saying it's actually to serve the other. It's to give for the other. Greatness is not me building my kingdom, me establishing my brand, me excelling and obtaining every comfort. Greatness has to be for something beyond yourself. Now, it's interesting because, of course, we live in the American, and you've probably heard this before, maybe you haven't, but the two fish are swimming down the water superhighway, and the pelican sticks his head in the water and says, hey, boys, how's the water? And they look up, they go, pelican, and they swim away. And then one looks at the other and says, what's water? Right? Because the fish aren't aware of the fact that they're in water, right? They don't know that they're in water because it's just what they breathe. It's what they're surrounded by. In the same way, Americans don't realize that we are swimming in a success-driven, bigger is better driven culture. And so when we say success, we immediately think big, expensive, wealthy, powerful. And so that's the paradigm, the water that Americans swim in, because that's what Americans have done for the last 200 years. Bigger is always better. And I think we have to take that mindset and we have to question. You look at people like Michael Jordan or Tom Brady or many others, and I remember, big Michael Jordan fan growing up, I love Michael Jordan. I think he's an incredible athlete, incredible success. I watched his speech in the induction of the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you ever saw it. You can YouTube it. But
I personally haven't seen it.
Okay, so he gets up there, and here he is like literally the greatest basketball player, maybe the greatest athlete of all time. Yeah. He's up there, and instead of just like humbly receiving the award that like, you're the greatest, Michael, he starts picking fights, and he starts talking about how he's better than John Stockton, and talking about how he's better than Clyde Drexler, and how he's talking about, and he like goes into all these little nitpicking things, and it made him look so small. And I remember, like, as a huge Michael Jordan fan watching this going, this guy still has to prove that he's great. Like, come on, man, just be, and he usually often is very gracious, but in that moment, as a fan, I was disappointed, And then you've seen maybe the interviews with Tom Brady at, Super Bowl number 3, Super Bowl number 4, and they're interviewing him, and he's still like, man, I just don't know. There's something more. Is this all there is? And he's struggling with this idea of like, I've won all these Super Bowls, but I still don't feel like I've arrived, Yeah. And I think that the kind of the little secret thread in the Michael Jordan celebration at the interview with Tom Brady is that these guys are winning the biggest championships, feeling the greatest success, and yet they're still finding a sense of emptiness. Because greatness cannot be just me expanding my thing. Greatness has to be a purpose or a cause beyond myself. And so what is success? A lot of people have defined it, and I think there are multiple layers to success. I would say that there are two things that come to mind right away when I think of success. Number one, it's fulfilling my God-given purpose. And I know that feels ambiguous. It's like, well, what's my God-given purpose? Well, the first thing is to fulfill the great commandment, to love the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, and my neighbor as myself. And so the first aspect of what success is this idea of maximizing loving relationship, first with God and then with others. And so, like, this is a great example, right? If you make $1 billion in your lifetime, you're the Jeff Bezos, you're the Steve Jobs, and yet your kids and your wife don't love you or respect you. Did you succeed? Were you a success? If you gave up loving relationship for the sake of promotion and advancement, Is that success? And I think the Bible would say no. I think the Bible would say you chose unwisely. That success has to be rooted in loving relationship. First, relationship with God. Second, relationship with those closest to you. And then third, relationship with the world around you. Were you a blessing and a benefit to the world around you? Yeah. So what is success? Just as like we looked at last week, that God is loving relationship, 3 in 1, the triune God, Father, Son, and Spirit. At the core of the universe is this fellowship of hearts. In the same way, success has to be truly living for loving relationship beyond myself. Yeah. And then taking the gifts and the talents, the abilities God's given me, and thriving with those talents. And so, again, now the question becomes, all right, I thrive. So I'm a businessman, right? I'm good at real estate. I can buy real estate, sell real estate. I'm really talented at it. I can make a ton of money. Why do I make a ton of money? Why do I make a ton of money? Is it just for my own comforts? Mm. And this is a really guiding thought that I would love anyone to really meditate on. And it's that God has called you to succeed, and you succeed to serve. So in other words, everything I do in my success is for the sake of service of others. It's not for the sake of self-benefit, personal advancement. It's for service. And so I'm called to succeed. He wants me to thrive. He wants my light to shine, and I succeed to serve. Mm. That's the other side of the coin. And I think America has got that wrong. We say, I'm called to succeed, and I succeed for self. Yeah. And then what do you get? You get a bunch of super successful people who are empty and hollow and lonely and desperate. And here they are, they got everything in the world, and yet they have nothing because they didn't realize all of your success was for service. And if you don't see that second piece, success will always be empty.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point because a lot of us go through our life trying to be somebody and trying to do something that goes beyond what we've known. Yep. So our parents have, and this is kind of how the world works, is what your parents, show you. Right. And from there, you're like, okay, what else can I do? Because this is the norm for me. Yep. I want to go above and beyond that. Right. And I think, that desire to do something greater than what you know is, and what you're saying is it's okay. It's healthy. That's
not intrinsically bad.
It's okay, but as long as you do it for the right purposes. And, I think it's great to hear that because there are a lot of people who have that desire to do something great, to be something great, and to use the gifts that we're given in order to go. I mean, and just like what you said, it's interesting. We all have unique gifts. Right. We all do something a little bit different. You preach a little bit better than me, for instance.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a gift in that area, sure. And I think as long as we take our gifts and use them, for the glory of God, but it's okay, it's okay to desire to be.
It is
to be better than where you're at right now.
Absolutely, and I think every person, first of all, you have to go through your own heart and do some real heart introspection. This isn't a one-time thing. I know for me, I've been doing this for 20 years. First, you cannot condemn yourself for a longing to be great. That is from God. Second, you have to then ask yourself the very challenging question, what do I desire? Okay? And I would encourage you, spend some time on that question.
That's powerful.
What do I desire? And then as you start to answer that question, well, why? I desire to be better than my parents. Well, why? I desire to be the most successful person in my town. Well, why? I desire to be the most successful person in my school. Well, why? Like, get to the question of why. And I know for me, and I'll just kind of play my hand, right? I'll put my cards on the table. I've asked that question so many times with the church, with my own life. What do I desire? What do I desire? What do I desire? And I've come down to one simple phrase to embody what I desire in life. And it is, God, I desire to please you. That's what I desire. Like, I know that sounds overly simplified, not out of an insecure fear that I'm disappointing him. Yeah. No. He's my Father. He loves me. Out of a grateful love. I just want to please you, God. And here's what I know. If you will live your life driven by a passionate desire to simply please God, then he will make you great. He will make you great in the unique way that he's called you to be great. Yeah. And it may not look like anyone else because you're a unique design of the image of God. But when we say, well, I really just desire God to bless my plans. Well, I really just desire. Well, now you're going to get to the top of the ladder and realize that it's leaned up against the wrong building. And you're going to go, oh man, this isn't what I wanted ever. Yeah. Because at our core, we were created to please the Father. And when we live for that, there's incredible joy.
Yeah. So let me throw you a quick curveball here.
Let's do it.
Work versus leisure.
Yep.
So we've talked about, being successful. We've talked about, going up the ladder.
Yeah.
But where is it that line is crossed?
So important.
So, we're working. We have to provide. We have to do those things.
Yep.
But at the same time, I do know people that are like, yeah, I believe in God. God is the greatest.
Yep.
I don't want to do anything.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So there's two sides, right? So I love what Paul says. I actually had this on my fridge as a college student because I was leading people to Jesus who were living with me. And they were eating all my food. But, it says in the book of Thessalonians, it says, if a man doesn't work, let him not eat, right? And so hard work, being disciplined, being diligent is a part of honoring God. Laziness, gluttony, sloppiness does not honor the Creator that made you in His image. And so that needs to be condemned. If you're being lazy, if you're mooching, if you're not taking responsibility for yourself, those are dishonorable qualities, okay? So that's a no-brainer. But then there's the other side. And for a lot of us, the other side is actually more of the problem. It's not laziness, it's drivenness. It's I want to be so successful that I neglect my family. I want to be so successful that I have no time for friendships. I want to be so successful that I never rest, right? That equally dishonors God. See, God created the universe with a cadence. Everything has a cadence. Everything has a rhythm. There's winter, spring, summer, and fall. And God actually created man to work. Work is not part of the curse. Yeah. Work is part of the blessing. But He also created limits on that work so that we would always know that man does not live by bread alone. Man lives by the strength that God provides. And so what does that mean? It means that you work 6 days, you rest on the seventh day, on the Sabbath. The Sabbath rhythm of life was actually created by God for us to acknowledge that we're not God. And so when we violate that Sabbath, we actually are saying back to God, I am God. I need to produce for myself. I keep the world spinning on its axis. And what we have to acknowledge is our place in creation. No, I don't keep the world spinning on the axis. The world goes just fine without me. I need to submit to my limits, which mean I need to work and then I need to rest. And so creating space for family, creating space for rhythms, for rest, for stopping is actually a really important part of honoring God with your life.
Yeah.
And God gives us a promise for all of our workaholics out there, which I'm one.
I feel like you're talking right to me. I don't know if anyone else out there feels like
it's
that. It's
just like tithing, right? The promise is if you will embrace my cadence of work and rest, you'll produce more than if you work the whole time. That's the promise, and it's an act of faith, okay? So, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to have time with family. I'm going to have time for personal space. I'm going to rest. I'm going to have a Sabbath where for 24 hours, I pause, I pray, I play. I unplug from work. I don't pick up the phone. I don't respond to email. Every week I have that cadence. When I honor that, God says, I'll get more done through your life by you honoring my rhythm than by you violating it.
Oh, He's talking to me and at least a ton of other people out there. So I mean, it's just, I feel like in that position, we're so caught up in the world,
right,
that we don't even think about the Sabbath. We're like, oh, we have this many hours. Oh, think about how much stuff I can get done.
That's right.
In this much time. So I mean, for me personally, that's something I've been working on for a long time, is taking time, and designating it as the Sabbath time.
And think about it like this, the people of Israel, when they lived in Egypt, they were slaves. And so because they were slaves, Pharaoh made them work 24/7, right? All day, every day, they worked. And right when they got out of Egypt, God said, let me give you a gift. It's called Sabbath. No longer are you a slave to the man. No longer are you a part of the machine. No longer is your value found in what you produce. Now your value is found in the fact that you're my child. And so a lot of us, we work because we're caught up in this mindset that says, I have to prove I'm worth something. And so I'm always trying to make a little bit more, do a little bit more. I have to show whoever it is, the world, my family, whatever, that I am something. And so what are you doing? You're living for Pharaoh. You're living as a slave to that producing mentality. God says, I'm going to set you free from that through the gift of pausing. Yeah. And when you pause, you'll find that you're more fruitful anyways.
I'm going to use that, living for Pharaoh.
Oh, man. I'm telling you, I lived for Pharaoh for a long time. For Jesus, for Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I'm going to work for you 1,000,000 hours a week for your glory. And then I'm dying and burning myself out. You start to actually hate the things you love.
Ah, that's so powerful. So powerful. So on a lighter note, before we sign off, I want to talk about something that has been life-changing for you.
Yes.
Life-changing. Yes. You got a dog.
I got here today and I found a dog treat in my pocket. I was like, oh, man.
What has life come to? You got a dog. So what kind of dog did you get?
I was at, we were, where was I? I was at the restaurant. I was at the Hornet's Nest the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving and I've got my 4 kids, our baby girl in my arms. She's screaming. My kids, my boys are fighting. And the dog's in the car barking. And Chrissy's walking out. And this guy looked at me and he's sitting there sipping his coffee. Older guy, no kids. He looked at me and his look was like, what have you done?
Yeah.
You're an idiot, And I just smiled back and I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Welcome to life.
Yeah. So it's a golden retriever. We got a golden retriever. Her name is Winifred, and
what's the name?
Winnie. Winifred. Yeah, Winnie. Yeah. And so she is actually, to be honest, I'm not like a huge dog guy. I'm sorry for all you dogs. I know you got a couple dogs, but well, that one really isn't even a dog.
No,
it's like a rat. But
Courtney's gonna be so upset.
But yeah. So we did get a golden retriever. She's a puppy, and so she's 11 weeks old, and I got to admit, the Lord is gracious and compassionate. She is a sweet, obedient. She's a good dog. Yeah. She's not crazy, not hyper, super calm. Thankful for that.
Well,
so yeah,
good luck to you. That's all I have to say is good. My dogs, I think, they're pushing 10. I'm hoping my little white one. Yeah. Secretly, she's 18, but don't tell my wife.
Go play in the street. Go play in the street.
Good luck. Good luck on your journey as a dog parent.
You know what? I appreciate it. My wife's been asking. I've been resisting for 14 years. Yeah, well, so I finally cracked.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I figured, you know what? It's crazy. Let's just make it a little crazier in our house.
So. Mine as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you heard it here. Justin, thank you so much for being here. And guys, again, any questions, you feel free to email us at beonsunday@voxchurch.org. And we will see you next week.